Thank you everyone for joining our School on Wheels workshop, Making Common Sense of the Common Core. My name is Natasha Bayes, and I'm the Education and Training Coordinator for School on Wheels. I'm very happy to have with me tonight Amy Ezhaya, who is with us through our AmeriCorps project, as well as Kelsey Ritzal, who is not only a teacher, but also a wonderful volunteer tutor with School on Wheels. Just a few notes before we begin the presentation. For the purpose of sound quality, all participants are currently muted. You have the ability to ask questions at any time using the questions pane. Simply type in your question and hit sound. We will select the order for the questions and read them aloud. We'll probably wait for questions until the end of the presentation. And I wanted to give you a brief introduction to our two hosts this evening. Amy Ezhaya recently joined the School on Wheels team as the Curriculum and Outcomes Measurement Specialist. This position was newly created in order to help School on Wheels better meet the needs of homeless students in our program by providing them with the highest level of educational materials and tracking their progress to ensure success of the program. And then we also have with us tonight by phone Kelsey Ritzal, and she's a special education teacher at Frederick Douglass Academy Elementary School. She holds a master's degree in education from the University of Notre Dame of Maryland and has worked in various special education settings for the past 5 years. And Kelsey has received training in the implementation of the Common Core standards through LA Unified School District's Math Fellows program. And she's also been a dedicated tutor for School on Wheels Skid Row Learning Center for over a year. So thank you both for being here. I'm going to have Amy start out the presentation. I'll turn it over to her. Thank you.
Hi all, and welcome again, and thank you for joining us. This is a very complex topic, so we're going to try to do our best to introduce it to you and give you a brief overview tonight of what it is, and more importantly, how you can use it to help our students. A little overview of what we're doing tonight. We're going to give you some background information, some statistics, why the switch to Common Core, the way Common Core is structured, why School on Wheels is using the Common Core, differentiation, what it is, and what does Common Core look like in English language, arts, and math, and some resources for all of you to use. First, we're going to start out with a great video that gives you a brief summary of what exactly this Common Core is.
Like it or not, life is full of measuring sticks. How smart we are, how fast we are, how well we can, compete. But up until now, it's been pretty hard to tell how well kids are competing in school and how well they're going to do when they get out of school. We like to think that our education system does that. But when it comes to learning what they really need to be successful after graduation, is a girl in your neighborhood being taught as much as her friend over in the next one? Is a graduating senior in, say, St. Louis as prepared to get a job as the graduate in Shanghai? Well, it turns out the answer to both of these questions is no. Because for years, states have been setting different standards for what students should know and be able to do at each grade level. That's making it too hard to know if our kids are really doing well enough overall, and if they can really compete for a job someday. What we really need are clear goals. That's where the Common Core state standards come in. They're like a total sea change in education. Consistent, strong, clear benchmarks for English language, arts, and math. Here's how it works. You can think of kindergarten through 12th grade like a giant staircase. Each step is a skill your child needs to learn before stepping up to the next one. But right now, too many kids aren't really confident with like 2 plus 2 before they have to move on to 2 times 2. We need more focus on the skills that help them move up the stairs, or they can slip up and fall behind. And there's another problem. What if everyone's stairs were made at different heights? Well, here we go again. They are. So, a boy in Seattle who's rocking an A in English literature could be getting a C on his Chicago friend's staircase. Oops. We need to create consistent steps in education, too. So first, each standard creates a landing on the staircase, a stop along the way as your child heads toward high school graduation. Each stop is a chance for every parent and teacher to focus on the skills their students are supposed to know at that step, no matter the zip code, language, or race. And more importantly, each standard makes sure all students are learning what they need to know to get to graduation and beyond. Because something like counting to 100 leads to understanding dollars and cents, which eventually leads to understanding how to manage a budget. Secondly, the standards are consistent from school to school, and they match up against international standards too. Now we know how we're doing compared to just about everyone. So even though local communities will still design their own curriculum with the same rules, everybody can compete on the same kind of staircase. But standards aren't learning. That's why we need teachers, parents, and students to help make that happen by working together to help kids meet these standards. The world's getting more and more competitive every day. But now, when our kids get to the top of their staircase, they can have way more options on where their life goes from there. Clear goals, confident, well-prepared students. That's the Common Core State Standards.
All right, and so to just give you a brief definition of what the Common Core is, the Common Core is a set of high-quality academic standards in math and English. These learning goals outline what a student should know and be able to do at the end of each grade. The standards were created to ensure that all students graduate from high school with the skills and knowledge necessary to succeed in college, career, and life, regardless of where they live. And now we're just going to open up our first poll, just to get you guys interactive tonight. And so we're going to post that if you could just answer this question.
All right, we're seeing more that know a little bit about it. All right, let me show you the results. Here we go.
Okay, so it looks like the majority of people have heard a little bit about it. A few people know nothing, and then some people, the least amount of people, are pretty familiar with it, which is really common. Common Core is still a very new topic for the school systems, and for the public. They're just implementing it full force this year, so we're here to help. And my part. All right, here's a few statistics. That's not the focal point of this presentation, so I'm just going to quickly go through this. It's a state-led effort, and it's not a federal mandate. This is a misconception often with the Common Core, that it's something that was created after No Child Left Behind, but it's actually a completely separate creation, and it's adopted by states. It's not federally mandated, so each state got to choose whether or not they wanted to adopt the Common Core. It's also internationally benchmarked, which means that the standards were created based on an international perspective, and it took into account the education systems of other countries, and we felt that the United States was really failing in comparison to other countries, so they wanted to create standards that could compete. Incorporates 21st century learning styles, which means it's more collaborative. It prepares our students for the workforce and includes a lot more blended learning, so technology, using iPads in the classroom. The standards are consistent from state to state. That's pretty straightforward. Created by a collaborative group, so it was educators, state government, all kinds of different people. The goal is to help create students who are equally college and career ready, and that really is the focal point of the standards. We're trying to help our students succeed in the long run. So again, like I said before, each state had the ability to adopt the Common Core, and the light blue states on this map are the states that have not adopted it. So Texas, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Virginia have not adopted the Common Core. So moving along to why would we want to adopt the Common Core? Why is it important? So here's a little chart that highlights some of the most important reasons, some of the pros to Common Core. It helps prepare our students. Students are asked to think more critically, think outside the box, use several ways, several methods to solve a problem. This is a more realistic approach to the real world and for career success. Instead of just regurgitating information back, the students are asked to really explain themselves and why they're solving problems the way they are. And also an increase in more nonfiction reading, which is also another more realistic approach to education. Competition, this is to increase, because of the increase of global economy, global education, people are working abroad more, we have more international companies, and so we really need to compete on a global level, and so the standards are helping us meet that goal. Clarity, that's for teachers and for students. The standards allow more clarity for what should be taught at each grade level and what students can expect at each grade level. Collaboration integrates instruction across different disciplines. This means, English, an English lesson can incorporate a lot of social studies type texts and features as well as math and science go really well together. And also it's an opportunity for teachers to create and share resources because now we have the standardization across the grades. So, a second grade teacher can post a lesson plan online and, anyone else in a different state can access that lesson plan and use it for their second grade as well. And equity, this one's really important for us at School on Wheels because of the population of students that we're working with. So the standards require the same from all students regardless of their location or ability, and because we have such a transient or mobile population of students, the standards work really well in providing equal access to a certain set of academic success. Here's just a little snapshot of how the Common Core is going to contribute to the future, and, again, really just that focal point of trying to make students career and successful, college ready. The single biggest reason to create the Common Core was to prepare the students and more focused on the global level. They want to increase critical thinking skills, like I mentioned before, also an increase in speaking and listening skills. Now we're seeing a change in the curriculum to a more, turn to your partner and discuss why you got the answer and, give your partner feedback. And this is even starting at the very low levels of kindergarten. We're seeing a lot of pair work even at kindergarten, and that, develops to group discussions and book type groups in the higher levels. Also, we see an increase in researching and using the internet and evidence to support your ideas. And again, this is starting at the lower levels and then just evolving from there. And just some stats on the side of why this is going to be important. It's just saying that there's going to be an increased requirement of students having a post-secondary education, and how that is really important nationwide and globally, and we really want to help our students be prepared for college and career. So the achievement gap is really a focal point of School on Wheels, considering a lot of our students have an achievement gap in their education. With a highly mobile population, there can be a lot of gaps for our students just because they're moving from school district to school district and having different types of classes, and they might have learned addition at the one school that they were in and then moved to a different school, and now they're already moved on to the next lesson, and they haven't quite gotten a chance to finish their addition skills. So the Common Core is a challenge for all students, but this helps push our students to close that achievement gap and really take a good look at where those gaps are by looking at the standards and knowing, okay, a second grader should have learned this, and so I need to go back and focus on this with my students so I can fill in that gap for them. with the Common Core, students from all walks of life and all parts of the country are being held to the same rigorous standards. It's not just something for high-achieving students or from students from affluent communities. It's for everyone, and each child is being taught, or each student, I should say, is being taught the same academics. So it really is promoting equity and the quality of education and level achievement. Kelsey's going to talk about this slide.
Sure. So as a teacher, this is kind of where my expertise comes in. Amy has talked a little bit about kind of the overview of the Common Core standards and how they're going to be changing learning for our students and how they're going to help our students to become better prepared for college and career. But I think it's important to note that the Common Core standards aren't only changing the way that our students are learning, they're definitely changing the way that teachers are teaching. We have our traditional classroom here on the one side, which is, I mean, I remember, I know it's the way that I learned and probably the way that most of you guys learned. You know, the teacher stands up front, she lectures, you listen, you follow steps. That's, you know procedures. Whereas the Common Core is kind of taking us into this new 21st century classroom that you see on the other side, where the teacher is posing problems to the students. The students are then given time to collaboratively figure out solutions to those problems. And having the kids figure out solutions to their own problems not only makes learning more meaningful for them, but then in turn helps them to remember it better. It gives them a better sense of ownership over their own learning. So it's also important to note we're not just changing, it's not just the standards that are changing, but it's also teaching styles. It's also how your students are going to interact with you when you're tutoring after school. It's going to be a more hands-on learning versus a following steps and procedures kind of learning. All right, go ahead.
Great, thanks. So the next part of the presentation is going to just kind of be what exactly the Common Core standards look like. So when you guys go online and see these codes, you'll sort of have a better understanding of how to read them. And that's one of the most complex aspects to the Common Core is what do all these numbers mean and what is this? So here you can see how one standard would look. If your student is in grade 7, and you want the subject area of math, your standard that you're going to be looking at would look similar to this. So the first part of that is going to be across all the standards. You're going to see just the Common Core name there, and then you have the subject area, so math, and then your grade level, so that's what the number 7 means, it's 7th grade, and then they're learning about the number system, and it's standard A to D. And so that standard reads convert a rational number to a decimal using long division. Know that the decimal form of a rational number terminates in OS or eventually repeats. And so that's just telling you what this standard is going to teach, and then you can find on websites or what we're going to be eventually providing to you for School on Wheels is a specific lesson plan that meets that standard. So here again is the code that you would see. This is just an example from English Language Arts. So you would see ELA. This is Reading Literacy, RL, for kindergarten, and Standard 1. With prompting and support, ask and answer questions about key details in a text. The breakdown for these standards is basically the first part. They've divided K through 5 into sections, and then each section is divided into a strand. So here is an example. Under English Language Arts, you will always have the strands of reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language. And I highly recommend writing down or copying and pasting this link because it will bring you to the California state standards, and it gives you all of the standards that are under these strands, and so you can take a look at some of those. Each strand is then divided into an anchor standard such as key ideas and details or craft and structure, and then these are grade specific. So here's another example of what you would find at that link I provided, Reading Standards for Literature, K through 5, and these are the standards that you would find grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 for reading literature. So just remember, it's not just English language arts. Under that title, you're going to have reading literature, you're going to have reading foundational skills, reading informational text, which is nonfiction. You're going to have writing, speaking and listening, and language. So, this is really going to focus your tutoring sessions into what do I want to teach, which standard. It really is like a laser focus into I'm not just teaching an English lesson, I'm specifically teaching reading, and under that, I'm specifically teaching ask and answer questions to demonstrate understanding of a text, referring explicitly to the text as the basis for the answers. So there I just grabbed standard number 1. And really, that's enough for one tutoring session. I mean, that's quite a bit. It's pretty complicated. But what we've done here at School on Wheels is we have broken that down for you and provided a specific lesson plan so that you can adjust that standard. Here is just another example of how a standard could be broken down, but I chose this image because it really shows how it progresses from kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2. Like the video showed, Common Core really is a staircase, and it increases with each grade. So they're really starting with the foundation, and building a strong foundation is really important, and then each grade level stepping up from there and stepping up from there until it gets a little bit more complex. Another important shift to notice in the English language arts is the range and type of text that we're using. There's not so much literature as there is nonfiction, especially in the later grades. So this is something really important to take note of if you have a student. I would say from probably the 6th grade or higher, 5th grade and higher, if you're doing a reading exercise with them, you should try to choose a text that is based on something factual, a nonfiction text. It's always great to find out what your students' interests are and go with that, but get a news clipping, get an internet article, get something, a biography that they're interested in, and use that as your material for the lesson. Here in math, for some reason, they don't call it strands, they call it domains. I'm not sure why they decided to change it for math, but you're always going to have standards that fall under counting and cardinality, number and operations in base 10, geometry, measurement, and data. And again, I have added the link to the California standards there, and it has all your math standards, K through 12, and appendixes and sample activities.
I just want to interrupt and let everyone know that we will share all these links with you at the end of the presentation. We usually do a follow-up email with the slides and with the links and all our resources. So don't worry if you're trying to scribble them down or click them or anything. They're not going to work off of the presentation, but we will get them to you. Thanks.
And so here again, you see the domain progression from kindergarten to 8th grade, and how you can see counting and cardinality is really a focus at kindergarten and not so much of a focus in 5th grade. So, obviously we're teaching kids to count and building from there, and this graph really shows how each concept builds upon the other in math. And some of the key shifts in math that we're seeing is it's definitely a deeper and not as shallow and not as broad. They're picking certain skills to focus on and really, hitting that home with our students, opposed to trying to teach them all these topics and not really going into depth with any of them. So kindergarten through 2nd grade, we see a lot of problem solving with addition and subtraction. 3rd grade through 5th grade is multiplication and division of whole numbers and fractions. We get that question quite a bit. When do students start fractions? And I would say, it's really introduced with diagrams and things at 3rd and 4th grade, and builds from there. 6th grade, we're talking about ratios, proportional relationships, early algebraic equations. 7th grade is the same ratios and rational numbers. And then 8th grade, you're looking at linear algebra and functions. And here's just a sample of what the standards look like for math. Again, provided at that link that we'll send you, so you guys can really dig in deep and look at that. But you've got your domain down the side, measurement and data, and then you've got your clusters underneath that showing the different skills that need to be mastered under measurement and data for 2nd grade. That's what the 2 stands for. The MD stands for measurement and data. And then it's just standard 1, standard 2, standard 3, depending on what skill you want to teach. Some major shifts in math, I mentioned the focus is narrow and deep. Really want to develop that strong foundation, so we really want our kids counting and being able to add and understand what numbers are before we're asking them to solve equations. Each standard is not a new event, but just an extension, so you're building and building and building. Master speed, simple equation, simple calculation, so that more complex topics can be addressed. Again, this is still, it's all kind of the same idea where we want to really have that strong foundation and then extend and make their skills stronger. And I just provided 2 examples of what the standards kind of look like now. These are kindergarten. I can explain my thinking about a problem. And so you see in that first image, there's 2 students and they've solved the problem differently, and they're sharing their strategies with one another. So again, a lot more collaborative thinking and critical thinking, and like Kelsey said, taking ownership over this. And then on the second image, I can model everyday problems in different ways. We also see this is a big common thing in Common Core, that, we're not just asking them to do rote memorization and tell us the answer. We're telling them, well, how did you get that answer, and prove it. So, and show me all the different ways that you can do that. So here's just one example of that. And now we're going to open up another poll for you guys. We just wanted to get a little feedback on the students you're working with. So if you could answer this poll.
And some of you may have multiple students and some may not have students assigned yet, but just go ahead and answer to the best of your ability.
All right, so it looks like the majority of our tutors have students grades 3 through 5th, and then kindergarten through 2nd, and then 6 through 8, and high school seems to be pretty similar. So we're looking at, upper elementary, middle, lower elementary. Great, thanks. That gives us a lot of good ideas on the materials we can provide you guys with. So moving right along, School on Wheels in the Common Core, how and why are we doing this, and what resources are available to you guys? So, I mean, it's pretty important and well known that obviously the school districts have adopted this, but why would it be important for School on Wheels, a tutoring organization? Well, we've really feel that our students need to have consistency between what they're learning in school and what they're learning after school. And because Common Core approaches, things like math problems and English in such a different way, and there are all these new ways of learning, we want to make sure that, yes, we're not your typical educators. We, by career, have other careers, but we are, as tutors, working in the education field. So it's really important that we're up to date on what the school districts are doing and what the schools are teaching and how the teachers are teaching, so we can provide that consistency for our students. Another important reason we're doing this as an organization is so that we can be able to assess our students, and in order to assess our students and show that our tutoring services are really helping them achieve and fill in those achievement gaps, we have to have some commonality in what we're helping our students with. So the Common Core lesson plans will help with that. And there are a bunch of new websites and resources available because of the Common Core. So we want to share that with you guys, and it's just going to provide so many more resources and ways to teach things and ways to structure your tutoring sessions. So what our approach is going to look like to curriculum, we're actually going to be providing our tutors with Google folders, or we're going to put it on our website. We haven't quite figured out the format of it yet, but right now it's sitting in Google folders, and this is what it looks like. So we have an English language arts folder and a math folder for every single grade. And under each folder, so for instance, English language arts, you would have your strands of reading, writing, language, speaking, and listening, and then a couple additional folders with worksheets and the assessment. And so under each one of those folders, you're going to find the standards, and you're going to find the lesson plan specific to each grade. So for example, a kindergarten language folder would look like this. You would open, you're tutoring a kindergartner, and you've decided you wanted to teach a language lesson for them. So you would open up your kindergarten folder and go to English language arts, and under that you would see all the different strands, but you decide, okay, I want to teach a language lesson. So you go to that and you see all the different standards under language. So, that could be a phonics lesson or something, fun activity with letters. And you go through the lesson plans and pick the standard that you want to teach for your session, and there's going to be a lesson plan all laid out for you with all the materials you need. And now I get to pass the presentation over to Kelsey.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, so differentiation is going to be huge, as Amy has been talking about throughout the presentation. The Common Core standards are much more rigorous. So how can we help our students achieve these standards when they're already below grade level? Or maybe some of our students are challenged by disability. And this is really where, as a special ed teacher, my expertise lies. Go ahead and change the slide. So what is differentiation? Just if you take a look at my comic, we've got all of our animals, and all of those animals are asked to take the same exam, which is to climb that tree. Obviously, all of those animals aren't going to be able to climb that tree. The only one who's really going to succeed is going to be that monkey, because the animals don't have the tools that they need to succeed. Same thing with our students. Our students are challenged because of the way that they have been moving around a lot. They've been going to a lot of different elementary schools. They may have missed some school. That has set them back. They're a little bit below grade level. They don't have the resources and the things that they need to be able to succeed as well as some of their peers. So differentiation is basically just breaking down a concept into more manageable parts. It can also be referred to as scaffolding. If you think about the scaffolding on a house, we're kind of building it up level by level, or chunking, same kind of thing. You're just breaking things down for the students. You're making it more manageable. This is especially important for our students who are easily frustrated. A lot of times kids will refuse to do a task, or you'll see them just kind of break down and they're crying, and it's too hard, they can't do it. And so being able to help your kids kind of break it down into parts that they can do and then build from that is going to be really important. Go ahead. So this is just a little tree diagram to kind of show some more about what you can do to differentiate. You're basically looking at your students' needs. You can break down, what they're doing, whether it's the group that you're working with, whether they need one-to-one, attention. You can differentiate through the content. So maybe instead of doing 2-digit multiplication, if your student doesn't know 1 digit, you can move backwards from there and kind of start at a lower level and build them up. The process. Maybe they don't understand the standard algorithm. They don't understand why we're going to the neighbor and borrowing. So you can break it down further into place value or use manipulatives to show them why you're borrowing from the neighbor next door. And basically, you're looking at your students' readiness. You're looking at their interests. So Amy was talking a lot about using literature and nonfiction text. Choose books that your student is interested in. Find out what they really enjoy, and obviously that's going to help make the conversations a little bit richer. And then finally, you're going to use instructional strategies such as graphic organizers, scaffolded reading. So maybe your student's not reading on grade level. Choose a book that's on their reading level. It's not going to help them to read something that they don't understand. Things like learning centers, like really quick kind of activities to help them with phonics, which I will show you a little bit later, and other kind of things that help them to kind of take mastery and take ownership of their own learning. Okay, next. Okay, so getting into math. The biggest complaint that I have heard about Common Core math is, what's wrong with the algorithm? I learned math using the algorithm. Why can't we continue teaching the algorithm? And the algorithm is not bad. There's nothing wrong with the algorithm. And in fact, math, the Common Core standards, actually, the algorithm is included in the Common Core standards in grades 4, 5, and higher. The algorithm is not included in the Common Core standards below grade 4. And the reasoning for that is because we want our students to have a conceptual understanding of why. When we just start in kinder and first and second grade saying, step number 1, do, this is my first little thing over here, do 8 times 67, then cross out your carrying. We're teaching them procedures. We're teaching them steps to follow. We're not teaching them why they're multiplying that way. We're not teaching them why they need to put that 0 down as a placeholder. We're not teaching them why that works. When we don't teach our students why, then when they have a problem with that, when they don't get the right answer, they have no idea why their answer isn't correct. They're like, well, I did steps 1 through 4. And then they have to go all the way back and start all over again. And it's frustrating, and our students don't have a conceptual understanding of the problem. So you'll see things that look more like the graphic that I have in blue. Similar kind of problem, 2-digit by 2-digit multiplication. Instead of following steps 1 through 5, we're going to make an area model, which is basically just a square that we've broken down the 52 into place value, 50 plus 2. We've broken down the 46 into place value, 40 plus 6. This way the students can see I'm not just multiplying 6 times 2 and then 6 times 5. I'm multiplying 6 times 50 and 6 times 2. Same thing, I'm not multiplying 4 times 2 and 4 times 5. I'm multiplying 40 times 2 and 40 times 50. This helps them to gain a better understanding of, why is my number so large? Why is my number in the 2000s? I'm just multiplying 4 times 2. It's 40 times 2. That's another huge thing with Common Core is place value. Your students need to be able to know that that 5 in 52 is not just a 5, it is a 50. Same kind of thing with larger numbers. That place value understanding is really going to help them learn some of these new kind of concepts. Math is going into a more student-centered approach. It's more hands-on, like we mentioned before. In my Math Fellows training, we were taught to use the Fosno method, which is basically a method where, as the teacher, you give your students a problem to solve, and then you give them the tools and things that they can use to solve it, and you let them go. And you're there to facilitate. You're there to question and probe your students and get them on the right track. But you're not there to show them how to do it. They need to kind of problem solve and figure those things out on their own. And that goes right along with what Amy was talking about, making our students college and career ready. You know, when they're in college, if they have a difficult assignment, no one's going to be there saying, do steps 1 through 5, and then you'll figure out the answer. We're looking more towards problem solving. The teacher can then use the ways that the students came up with of solving these math problems to kind of teach and do the direct instruction from there. But we're not going blank slate, this is how you do it, now you follow exactly those same steps and you'll do it on your own. We're looking for more real-world examples in math. This is big when you're working with your students, and I'm going to give you guys some activities to use a little later, but when you're working with your students, make it real world. Make it relevant to them. Use money. Kids love money. And try to make it more, that will make it more interesting for them. It will also make it more memorable for them. Okay, next. Moving on to ELA and writing, ways that you can differentiate for your students for ELA and writing. Graphic organizers are huge. As a teacher, I use graphic organizers all the time during my ELA and writing lessons. This chart that I gave you right here is a sample, and I know Natasha said you guys are going to get a copy of this, so you'll definitely have these to use. But as you're reading, if you're doing a reading lesson, for example, don't just read the book and then after they're finished, go back and you know, what do you remember? Create one of these organizers. Create a purpose for reading. We're going to describe our character, our main character in the story. And then as you read, have your student and keep track of different things that describe the character. So you can read a page, maybe they see something, you stop, you write it down, you go back to reading. If you don't want to create a graphic organizer, sticky notes are wonderful. Just take a little sticky note as you're reading. If you see something important, put it on the page, write a little note on there. After you finish, you can then go back and take the sticky notes out and kind of make a little organizer using the sticky notes. This is really going to help with your students' comprehension and also their note-taking skills, because again, college and career ready, we're looking for people who can listen and read and take notes and kind of make sense of what they're reading. A big thing with Common Core is this close reading. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more on the next slide. And this is a focus on text-dependent questions. So it's no longer reading and saying, did you like this book? Why or why not? It's reading and saying, what does the character mean when they say X, Y, and Z? What do the character's words and actions tell you about them as a person? What kind of a person is our character? What did he do? What did he say that showed you that? They can only be answered with evidence from the text. So any question that you ask your student during a close reading is only going to be able to be answered with evidence from the text. It's not something that your student's going to be able to say, well, there was one time when I went to a fair and I remember. That's not a close reading. Close reading is go back in the text, well, the character saw X, Y, and Z at the fair. They did X, Y, and Z. We're looking for more specific text-dependent questions and answers. They can be literal, you know, literal as in what is the question, what does the character do? But they can also involve analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So why do you think the character did that? Or the character was able to help people in the story. What does that tell you about him? We're going to be focusing on words, sentences, and paragraphs. So you could even do a close reading. It doesn't have to be of the whole story. You could do a close reading of, a chapter or a paragraph and kind of analyze that paragraph for deeper understanding. You're also definitely going to focus on difficult portions of a text. This is going to be really important in the upper grades, in middle school and high school, when they're reading longer books that have maybe overarching themes. Going back and looking and saying, did you actually understand what you read? What does that mean? How does that fit into our bigger theme or our bigger picture? We're looking more for why and how, not just quick recall. What was the character's name? Where did they go in the story? More why and how questions. Why did the character do this? How could their problem have been solved in a different way? Next. Okay, so what does Common Core look like? So we've done a lot of talking at you about, this is what Common Core is, but what are some things that you can actually do with your students? So I have some specific activities that you can do with your students. This is obviously not a comprehensive list, just a little sampling of things. And we have a page of resources at the end so that you can kind of go do your own digging as well. Go ahead. So for ELA, we talked about close reading. That's something that's really easy. All you need is a book, a magazine, a newspaper, some sticky notes, possibly a graphic organizer. And, it's also helpful if you've read the story ahead of time, so you can create some of these questions ahead of time. But that's one of our more basic things. Again, using those graphic organizers. Vocabulary is huge. In order to understand what the students are reading, they need to be able to understand the words that they're reading. So looking at different vocabulary words, you can use context clues. So maybe as you're reading, you come across a word, help your student to read the sentence. Well, what do you think that word means based on how it was used? The Frere model is a great tool, which is right here on your screen. It's a little, basically you just make 4 squares. You write the word in the center. You have the student look up a definition. You have them draw a picture. You have them do a non-example or an antonym. And then you have them do examples or synonyms. You can have them create a representation. Again, Common Core, we're looking more for collaborative kind of things. So not just, sitting down and doing a worksheet. Maybe you're having your student create a representation of the character or create a comic strip that shows what happened in the story. For vocabulary, you can do a word and definition match. For prefixes and suffixes, I'm right now with my 4th and 5th graders. Most of our vocabulary and spelling words contain prefixes and suffixes. So helping your students to understand what those prefixes and suffixes mean and how they change the meaning of words. The best resource that I have used so far is from the Florida Center for Reading Research, and that's on the next slide. And if you go to this website, you can just, again, this is going to be on our resources page. You can also just Google search Florida Center for Reading Research. Go to the tab for educators. They have pre-created center activities that are based on Common Core standards. Basically, all you have to do is print it out, read the instructions. There might be a little bit of heading involved, but that's about it. And so you can look, they have grades, it's mostly for elementary grades. They do have some resources for middle school and high school. But these are wonderful, just little short activities that you can do with your students during your tutoring sessions. Again, once you go under educators, they have some of the old ones that are just aligned to the old standards. They're still great activities. But then there's also a link for Common Core aligned center activities. Again, it will break it up for you based on the standard. So you can just kind of go through and kind of look through. But they have phonics, they have writing centers, they have reading comprehension centers, reading fluency centers, and then also some of those language and vocabulary centers as well. So this is a great resource for you to use. And finally, our math examples. And these, on our resource page, there will be a link for a website that offers parent roadmaps. And a lot of these, they're for parents, but they're great for us too. These are some of the examples that I found off of these parent roadmaps. But for the little ones, for my K and first graders, for counting and cardinality, you can do a scavenger hunt with them. So for example, whether you're in a tutoring center or with them in an outside location, all right, let's look all over the room for as many number 1s as we can find. and, you know, have them move around and get up and make it a little bit fun, or have them do a scavenger hunt for specific numbers or specific objects if you're working on geometry, specific shapes. I Spy is another one that you can kind of do. You know, I Spy the number 3, and they have to kind of go through and search for it. Classifying shapes along with being able to have like a scavenger hunt or an I Spy with shapes. You can also just give them different everyday objects. You know, a tissue box, a can, a little block or something, and have them count the number of sides, have them match shapes that are alike. Those are for your K first graders. In the upper grades, 2nd, 3rd grade, we're getting into geometry as well. Have them classify the shapes. Have them look at, you know, what they're called, and again, counting the number of the sides and the faces and things like that. Again, for our younger ones, you can have them do a newspaper or magazine hunt. You know, have them look through an old newspaper and cut out all the numbers from 1 to 20. And then once they've cut those out, have them line them up in order. You can paste them on a piece of paper if you want to, or, you know, just have them use them, and you can mix them up and have them reorder them. Amy was talking a lot about how the foundational skills are super important when dealing with Common Core, and I would definitely agree. So you can't go wrong with basic fact practice. Flashcards are phenomenal. If you want to make it more interesting, use dice. You can use 2 dice and have them add, subtract, multiply, divide, excuse me, with those 2 numbers. If you don't have dice, use a set of playing cards and just take out the jacks, queens, and kings and have them, you can play war with your students. So you each, you know, split the deck in half, flip the cards over, and then, you know, whatever operation you're working on, you're either going to add or subtract or multiply those 2 cards. And finally, you can do a game with money and with coins. This is huge in 4th and 5th grade. We're getting into a lot of decimals, especially in 5th grade. So that adding and subtracting and multiplying decimals is going to really lend itself to money. So you can just kind of like grab a handful of coins, hold them so that the students can't see them, and then you can give them clues. Okay, I have 3 coins that are worth 7 cents. They're then going to have to use their reasoning to figure out which coins you have. And you can kind of go from there. Obviously, you could make it more difficult using bigger coins or more coins, or a little bit easier for, you know, for the younger ones. Next. And finally, these are the resources that I have been using. Excuse me. The top one, the Council of Great City Schools, is the one I was talking about that has the parent roadmaps. They offer a roadmap for every grade from kindergarten up through high school. And it's a great resource for tutors because it basically tells you in this grade, this is what your child will be learning, and this is how you can help them at home. So I would definitely recommend checking out those roadmaps. They have them both for math and ELA. The Florida Center for Reading Research is on there. That's the ELA resources that I showed you. CoreStandards.org, that's where you can find all of the standards and more information about Common Core, and it's broken down by state, so you can look specifically at California and see what the California state standards are. Achieve the Core is another great resource that has some wonderful, you know, breaks down the standards a little bit more for you, has some more resources on it. And then finally, there's this Teach Thought, which is 50 Common Core resources for teachers. And it seems like every day that I'm looking for resources online, just Google searching, you know, Common Core has come up with more and more resources every time I look on there. So obviously, you're not limited to these, and I'm sure if you find something that is a great resource that is with Common Core, we would love for you to share it. So.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. At this time, we're going to open it up for questions. And maybe while we're waiting for some questions, I can do our last poll. And we're hoping to get a positive response from this, but you can be totally honest. So the questions are, let's see. How comfortable do you feel now about implementing the Common Core with your student? I feel more comfortable. I'm excited but still a little nervous, and I need another workshop. So go ahead and answer, be honest, and also type in your questions at this time. We're here for a few more minutes if you want to ask some specific questions. All right. Let's see. Okay, so it's fairly positive. I feel good about this. I know Kelsey and Amy did a great job, but most people say I feel more comfortable. I know some people are excited but still a little nervous. I thought that was actually going to be a little bit more. And I need another workshop. There's a few people, and that's fine. We can follow up with you with some more specific resources. So let me see if we have some questions right now. Are there Common Core standards for science? That's a good question from Liz. Who wants to handle that, Amy or Kelsey?
I do know that there are Common Core standards for science. When you get into above grade 5, so you have the basic standards K through 5, and then when you get 6 through 8, then the high school, you get content standards in history, science, and I think that might be it. Kelsey, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
And Brandy asks, where can I access the links for the math and English folders that were discussed in the presentation? I assume you mean the ones that Amy was creating? Right now, we can distribute some of the resources through our regional coordinators, but we're looking at a way to get it all up on our website, and we just we have to figure the technical part of it. But we're certainly here to help. If you want to email us or your regional coordinator, they can get you more of those specific resources.
And also what we're doing right now is if you have any specific needs for the student you're working with, available to email at any time. You can contact your regional coordinator and just say, can I have Amy's email? It's also my first initial A, last name Ezhaya, EZHAYA, at schoolonwheels.org. So I am available all the time to send out specific curriculum or ideas depending on your needs. So feel free to email me.
Yeah, and Liz also asked, she said a deeper dive would be helpful once School on Wheels has the Google Docs or however those resources will be sorted out. Certainly, yeah, and we will email out Amy's email and Kelsey's email, my email as well. So if you have any questions, you can contact us, but we will be working towards sharing more resources throughout the year and the next year.
And if there are any Pinterest lovers out there, we do have an awesome board going, and it's divided by grade, and I've made sure everything on there is aligned with the Common Core. So you can pick any activity and know that it's already Common Core aligned. So feel free to check us out by searching School on Wheels. We had gotten a few questions prior to the presentation. One question came from Allison, and she wanted to know more about how to show your work techniques in math. And so, yeah, this is definitely a really big thing with the Common Core. It's moving away from that mental math. You know, they're asking for students to show their work, to explain their work. So some of the things, I'm not sure what grade level your student is, but some of the ideas that you can do is have your student make a model, draw a diagram, create a table, create a number line, or a tally chart, and these are all ways that teachers are going to be asking students to show their work in math. So if you can incorporate that into your math lessons, that would be great. Kelsey sort of talked about how, you know, knowing place value and being able to decompose numbers. So, you know, decomposing a number is knowing that the number 349 is really 300, 4 tens and 9 ones. So, I mean, we want our students to be able to understand and be able to decompose a number into its expanded form. So, I mean, those are all things that you can start working on with your students, and that will really help them to be able to show their work in math. Kelsey, I don't know if you want to jump in on that at all?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I totally agree. I know that there's a lot of, because I was at the center at the Skid Row Center on Wednesday, and a lot of the kids were coming in with worksheets from Engage New York. And again, if you go to the Engage New York website, there should be kind of like a little teacher section in there that shows you how to do whichever worksheet they're working on. And because I don't know specifically which method you're thinking about, I can't really speak to that. But definitely the things Amy said, using those manipulatives, a lot of those diagrams, like I showed on the math slide, where we're breaking numbers into place value before multiplying, are going to be pretty big too.
Another question we received prior to the presentation is, what is the best way to help your student catch up to his normal grade level in reading? This is a question I get often, and I think it's common for our students at School on Wheels. And so I always suggest, really trying to focus in on that specific skill that is making them struggle during reading. Is it that they need to increase their understanding of vocabulary? Is it something with phonics? Do they need help being able to sound out words and that letter sound recognition? So really trying to pick out which specific skill is holding them back, where that gap is, and helping them specifically with that. Also, pre-reading activities is great. You don't want to just hand a text to a student and say, hey, read this. You want to go through the text with them and talk about it, talk about the title, maybe talk about what they think the text will be about, and really make it relevant to their life, and, increase that interest before they even, provide them with that context for the text so that it's relevant to them. And also, highlighting any unknown words before reading, and you can make a fun activity out of looking up those words and then try to read the text, because we really want to make our students feel successful, and this is all setting them up for that success. And with reading, that's a touchy subject, because students, have really low self-esteem with the reading if they're a struggling reader. So we really, really want to make sure that in the tutoring sessions they're feeling successful and they're enjoying what they're doing, because then they're going to want to do it more.
I would totally agree. And the only other thing I would add is, along with the phonics and things like that, do a lot of activities with sight words. There's tons of different, flashcards obviously are the easiest way to go with the sight words. But then also you can do there's very easy, like, printable bingo cards. You guys can play bingo. I like to make like a memory kind of game with flashcards. You can just really easily write them on index cards, 2 of each word, cut them up, mix them up, and then the kids can match the words. But there's a lot of different activities that you can do with sight words. And again, those Florida Center for Reading Research resources are going to be huge for the reading. They have phonics activities, and along with sight words and other kind of basic foundational reading skills that you can use with your kids.
One last question that we had was, what grade level do students learn fractions, decimals, and percentages in? So you start to see fractions around grade 3 or 4, and it's going to build from there. And then decimals, I think, is more grade 4, and percentages beyond that.
Yep, I would agree.
Thanks. And let's see. The reading and the grade level thing is definitely, that came up again, and just going for those high interest, low level reading texts, making them feel successful, because yeah, you have a student who's in 3rd grade, but that they're reading at a level below that. It doesn't mean that you have to give them, Humpty Dumpty to read. You can definitely find a really cool comic or a graphic novel or something that's really interesting to a 7th or 8th grader, but has really simple text.
I think that wraps up all our questions right now. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Amy and Kelsey. I really appreciate you doing this workshop and giving your expertise towards it. I think our tutors are very fortunate to have you speak on it, and we are going to continue to provide resources. This isn't just a one-time thing. I will email you out after this workshop with resources, but as a tutor, you know, you're going to get more resources through our website and just through other communications, and we are also always here to answer your questions. So don't feel like you're alone out there. You're not sure if you're not sure where to start or where to go to. We can help with that. So thanks again, Amy and Kelsey. And I just wanted to let you know we're always working on workshops, and if you have suggested topics, please let me know. I'm the Education and Training Coordinator. You can find my email on the website, but I'll follow up with an email. And if you have an expertise and you want to present on a workshop, that would be great too. Please contact me and let me know. And we just really appreciate the dedication of our tutors, and especially those who attend these workshops to learn more. I know you're really dedicated to helping your student and finding out the best way to do so. So thanks again, and have a great evening, and let us know if you have any other things that we can help with.